Good evening, everybody. Y'all come on in. Let's have a chit chat. Peace Almighty. This is Lee G. And peace to C Ray. What's happening? Marcus Sin in the house. What's happening? Glad y'all could join in. Can y'all hear me? Somebody press 1 if you can hear me, please. Just a quick mic check. Microphone check. All right, there you go. Thank you, sis. Thank you, Lee. Okay. So let's see if we can hash this out real quick. Peace Almighty, Sister Zeta. Thanks for joining in. 11:11, you know it. Let's see if we can hash this out real quick. The fourth industrial revolution and the conspiracy against childhood. I posit that many of the conspiracies that are tabled for us or presented to us are many times smoke screens, and that to find the true hidden agendas, one has to really be paying attention. You got to really pay attention because they are subtle things that affect you and I on a daily basis that we would most times not really consider to be some type of agenda. We might just say this is just the way that life is. Earlier today I was watching Brother Wally. This is a guy that I know here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and he put up a video and he was talking about how we are conditioned to force the child out of the house at 18, and you got to get out there and find. And that was I would think one of the more profound, quick videos that he's ever done, because it really speaks to a troublesome reality that we have adopted. And a lot of that comes back. One thing that, because we're so inundated with just the stuff of life, we are the real challenge is just to slow down and pay attention. And this goes along with the conspiracy against childhood. What we are in now is considered to be the fourth industrial revolution, the era of artificial intelligence and augmented reality. The first industrial revolution involved steam. The second industrial revolution involved electricity. The third industrial revolution involved the computer. And now, like I said, we're considered to be in the fourth industrial revolution. What I want you all to understand is that nothing happens in a capsule, nothing happens in a vacuum. So at the same time that the industrial revolution takes off, like I said in one of my other, I say it all the time, that when you evaluate history, you have to evaluate it in its, like they say, you cannot evaluated episodically. That's the term, the scholarly term for. You have to evaluate history holistically. Okay? So when you look at a period in history, you can't just look at what happened with one specific incident. You have to look at the total climate of the complex global landscape to evaluate why something is happening at a particular time in history. So the Industrial Revolution rises up in the mid 1700s. Now you got to understand what else is going on around this time. And you'll get this in my book. I lay this out, these historical components. In Europe, in the mid 1700s, there is a new awakening called the Enlightenment era, which is coming off the heels of the Renaissance, and then there was another one before the Enlightenment, but basically it's coming off of the heels of the Renaissance. And you got to understand that just decades before the Industrial Revolution emerges, prisoners from Europe are being shipped over to America and to Australia. And they passed an actual, I don't want to say bill, but it was legislation called the Transportation Act of 1718. Now I want you to stay with me. Now what happens is criminals in Scotland and England were given the opportunity to come and do a 7 or 14-year bid either here or in Australia to prevent going to the gallows. Now the gallows is where you go to get hung, get your head chopped off, drawn and quartered, burned, tarred, all these things. These were, that was the equivalent of us going to see a football game. That's the climate. So when the Industrial Revolution and the so-called Enlightenment era emerge, it is Europe expressing a degree of civility and saying that you have guys like Descartes, I might be saying his name wrong. Oh God, I can't. The name's on the tip of my tongue. Not Descartes. You had leading philosophical minds at the time who were contemporaries of the so-called founding fathers, Franklin, Jefferson, Benjamin Rush, and all these other guys. These guys were in Europe. They're contemporaries, okay? And they were creating a new body of literature that says that you don't have to control the person's body if you can control their mind. What is this? So this new wave of thought gives birth to the penal system, okay? In addition to giving birth to the penal system, it gives birth to the public education system. I want you to understand what I'm trying to tell you. Protestantism, public education, which started out as something called the Dame School. The Dame School was where in a town, they might get one or two ladies in the town and they would open their home up for all of the children to come, and basically it was just a glorified daycare center. You would pack all these children into a little room and give them little lessons and whatever just to keep them uh, their attention, and for them to learn basic writing and arithmetic. Why? Because for the Industrial Revolution, children just needed to be able to read and write just well enough to work in some type of factory. Now, prior to the Industrial Revolution jumping off, most people were homemakers. The husband worked around the home, not far from the wife. Children were right there. Everything was pretty much centered at the home. What the Industrial Revolution did, one of the main things it did was separate. First, it took the man out of the home. So even some of the things we see in the black community, this stuff is not necessarily just unique to us. It was already tried on basically what would be your lower class people of society. So first you take the father out the home, and he has to now go to a factory and work because he can't compete with, a so-called large conglomerate who does the same thing he does. Okay. Now, next, you create a so-called economy to where people can't afford to survive. So now the mother has to leave and go work. And now you need something for these children to do. And there goes your dame school. Your dame school would become later on your common school. Your common school would become your public school. And you got to understand at this time, these people are considered savages, because you got to think, most of the people who were sent over here were basically prisoners. Okay? And if you were not a prisoner, you were a part of the more elite class called yeomen. Y-E-O-M-E-N, yeomen. Okay? And just means soldier, but that means that was like a name for the elite. All right? And your elite first got their education in the northeast quadrant of so-called United States. Now, as time would go on, they would start putting out literature that would be geared towards indoctrinating children about what's the word I'm looking for? About how great it is to have a great work ethic. Put it that way. Work ethic. Okay. I showed you the book in one of the last videos. Rollo Goes to Work. You can find this book on Amazon. It's a little cheap, thin book. I highly suggest you get it. It's just something to have. It'll blow your mind. These little stories that they would write for young children to read in the 19th century to program their minds basically to be a slave. The conspiracy against childhood. Okay. What y'all got going in the comments? Okay. So, we've got schools, we've got penal system, we've got Protestant Christianity, all emerging at this time and taking form. And one of the main purposes of all three was to control the child. You go and look at the early development of the Anabaptists, the Methodists, the Lutherans, uh, uh, all these early church groups see schisms that broke off, you will see that one of the common denominators is controlling wayward youth. The term uh, uh, breaking and entering, gangs, gang violence, all this emerges in jolly old England. You get the book Medieval Callings, it'll break all that down for you. All these things, not the thuggers from India, but the thugs, they call themselves muckrakers, was a term for basically hardhead gangs, thugs, comes from England and was transported over to America. Documented. And documented in my book. Now, let's go to the metaphysics now. I wanted to give you a historical backdrop because at the same time that the Industrial Revolution is emerging, we see that this resurgence in, or let me say this creation of something called New Age. Now, see, it's just like the whole thing with Columbus. Oh, Columbus discovered this. Louis Pasteur discovered this. Now, this is an old game. The old game is that I go and identify something that has already been around, but once I first learn about it, I say I discovered it, and then it gets it gets recorded in history as I'm the person who started this movement. So the term New Age, there's nothing new about New Age. New Age is a new discovery for people who knew nothing about this science and then start trying to work with it. Okay? So what is called New Age emerged in same time that the Industrial Revolution. Now, it would not reach its heyday until the mid 19th century when they had a battery that they could feed off of and really see how this stuff really worked. Pascal Beverly Randolph. And when they extracted enough knowledge, then they killed him. Now, at the same time, look at how history, you got to look at your history horizontally, holistically. At the same time, you have an emergence of something called an anthroposophical society and a theosophical society. Okay? Same time, there's a guy named Horace Mann who is considered to be a philanthropist. You know, just like your Carnegie Foundation, your Gates Foundation, you know, we know about philanthropists. And he wants to educate the young children of the fledgling new world. Okay? All this stuff has metaphysical, occult significance. Now, let's get into the metaphysics. In the Bible, in Psalms 8:2, it says, out of the mouth of babes and sucklings has thine ordained strength because of thine enemies. Let thou mightest still thy enemy and the avenger. Okay? But where I want you to really hang your hat is out of the mouth of babes and sucklings. Okay? All right? Now we're talking metaphysics now. Matthew 18:3. Verily I say unto you, except ye be converted and become as little children, ye shall not enter the kingdom of heaven. Uh-oh. All right now. Now, this is Christ who's speaking and giving uh uh this is Christ who's speaking and who is laying down this manifesto. Now we know this is symbolic. Now Christ, let me just add this in here. Always remember, Christ is associated with the number 5. Abrupt change. See, 4 fixes things either through death or through laying a foundation. 4 is a fixture or a doorway. 5 is the abrupt change after the foundation has been set or you've gone through the doorway. All right. So John 3:3, verily, verily, I say unto thee, except a man be born again, he cannot see the kingdom of God. Now this is where I want you to really dig in. If you're born again, doesn't that mean you've got to go back to being a baby? Doesn't that make sense? If you're born again, you got to go back to an infant stage. Now, let me tell you the science behind this. Everything is backwards the way it's been taught to us. Childhood is the actual adulthood. See, you are a child in stature and you become an adult in stature. But as a child, you are more of an adult in your mind on a metaphysical level, and you become more like a child as you get older. Because the older you get, what do you have to do? You have to conform more. See? The conspiracy against childhood. I'm on to something here. You start to understand these are the rules. This is how it's got to be. Let me fall in line. I can't run and play no more. I got to, march step, lockstep, as they say. Conspiracy against childhood. So we see in the Commission story, Osiris, you know the old story. Osiris is murdered by his brother Set. Okay. Now, in some renderings, Osiris is 28 when he's murdered. All right. Now, I want you to understand the symbolism behind this. Now, somebody's been asking about numerology. Now, here come your numerology. Osiris is 28. 2 and 8 equals 10. 1 and 0 is 1. The moon cycles 28 days. The woman cycle 28 days, as in whole. Okay? Now, in your mouth, you have 28 teeth in your mouth, and then you get 4 wisdom teeth come in. Now, this is where it gets funky. Because Osiris is killed. After he is reconstituted by Isis, she then, you know the story, she turns herself into a bird in one account, which would represent the labia, the wings of the vagina, and she flaps her wings vehemently over a piece of wood that she had replaced his lost phallus with, and from that emerges Horus or Heru. Now, Heru has 4 offspring, 4 sons. Heru's 4 offspring would represent your 4 wisdom teeth in your mouth. Now, remember I told you that Christ is always synonymous with the number 5. 28 teeth in your mouth. Simple numerology adds up to 1. Then you get 4 wisdom teeth. What's 4 plus 1? 5. Okay? So obviously, if we dig deep into the story, what is the story of Osiris and Horus, or Asar and Heru, really telling us? That Heru is the result of Osiris' maturity. Osiris matured into the baby Horus. See? It's a conspiracy against childhood. I hope I'm making sense here. The story is telling you that Osiris had to die and be reborn in the child. And the flip is that it looks to your eye as though this is a little ignorant, dumb baby, don't know nothing, da 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 da. But that's the trick. The trick is that you cannot use these eyes. You have to use this eye to see the actual essence of the baby. The baby is the elder. He's the elder version of Osiris, because Osiris had to age and he had to grow into a complete something before he could give birth to something else. Don't the scripture say, verily, verily, I say unto thee, except a man be born again, he cannot see the kingdom of God. So if I can shut down your childlike mind, I deny you the world to come. I deny you the kingdom. A child is born with a heart of gold. The ways of the world makes his heart turn cold. Earth, Wind, and Fire said it. So, in the world of dentistry, we ask ourselves, why is the CDC so interested, the Center of Disease Control, interested in children having cavities? Now, one could argue that, well, because dental caries can lead to gum disease, and they're the Center for Disease Control. But I'm not I'm not buying that. So they put out statistics showing that children between the ages of 6 and 11 are like 50% greater chance to have cavities if they don't have dental sealants on their teeth. Now, I want you to understand how profound this is. If you go to the book of Revelations, chapter 20, verse 2, you're going to see it says that old devil, that old dragon, the devil, was locked into a pit for 1,000 years. Now, what did I just tell you? For Osiris to mature and become Horus, he had to get to the age of 28. So in Revelations, when it says 1,000 years, numerologically, it's the number 1 is what they're talking about. Wholeness. Wholeness. Okay? So, in the book of Revelations, when they talk about the dragon, Satan, they're talking about your own soul. Had to be locked up. That's talking about Osiris. That's talking about Christ energy. However you want to label it. Kundalini, whatever. Lock it up. Now, a lot of these dentists are major players. We talk a lot about doctors, but I'm telling you, the real stuff is the stuff you ain't paying attention to. Now listen to this. The CDC is pushing that children need to have dental sealants on their teeth. The sealants are made of a resin, plastic, nylon, glass compound. Okay? Now I want you to understand how serious this is, because nanotechnology now Y'all getting caught up in the, is Jesus a myth? Y'all getting caught up in the, that's we yeah, Jesus as a historical character is a myth. But that's we way past that. That's old hat. Listen, we dealing with the symbolism of what is behind all of this. I shouldn't even looked at that because I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, the sealant. Nanotechnology. Uh, that's right, to control the serpent. Erica, you're a trip. Um, the nanotechnology can now merge with glass. They have a biocompatible glass now that can be used to put in your mouth. Okay? I posit that the sealant that is being pushed, and they keep saying lower income children. That's called a dog whistle. That's called a dog whistle. When they're saying lower income children, we know what the deal is. We know who they're referring to. We're talking about big time Kabbalists who understand the symbolism, and they're connecting all of this on a physical plane. If you put sealants on their teeth, and then you go back and refer to Revelations 20:2, this is an attempt to shut down energy that is coming literally through the mouth. In the beginning was the Word. Jesus is called the Logos, the Word made flesh. So we're literally seeing that the fear is literally of this, the words. Literally talking about the mouth. We always, when we talk about the womb and the tomb and so forth, we always talk about the mind and the genitals. But what we skip sometimes is the mouth. Anywhere there's an opening on you symbolically correlates to a womb because it can receive. So you got to think about the ears. You got to think about the nose. So you got the CDC pushing this thing. We got to get these sealants on these teeth because all these children are going to be set up for gum disease. Now, this is how you know that something's rotten in the cotton, because it don't take no rocket scientist to know that sugar is the #1 contributor to bacteria. Bacteria is the #1 reason for plaque. Plaque is the #1 reason for tooth decay. Tooth decay then can go on to gum disease. Now, I want you to understand how sick this is. We know we are chaos beings. Okay? The word chaos corresponds etymologically to the word gums. Literally, your gums is the chaos. So your gums would be the same as dirt, shit, sediment, because out of that is where life rises. Okay? And I got, well, I ain't gonna, I'll say that for another conversation. So I've discovered that one of the most covert agendas is literally dealing with your mouth. So if you're so concerned about oral health, why don't you do something about the food that contributes to the tooth decay? Why is it so much attention put on, oh, well, what can we do to offset this? Now you got to understand, this is called Hegelian dialectic. you create a problem that's going to naturally drive you to a solution that brings about an ultimate reality that you were looking for in the first place. Hegelian dialectic is used to bring about what's the word I'm looking for? Uh, Not authentic. What's the opposite of authentic? It's artificial. An artificial reality. The true reality is that the pH level in your mouth is balanced out by your oral hygiene, but also by the food that you eat. The better the quality of food you eat, the more your pH level balances out in your mouth. When your pH level balances out in your mouth, your saliva then works to protect your enamel. So now we see not just an attack on childhood, but we see an attack on water, because you have an internal irrigation system called your saliva. Ain't that something? Now the word corresponds with sound. Sound corresponds with wave. Wave means water. Water. So we got to shut down the liquid in the mouth, the saliva. And the saliva now becomes the enemy of your own mouth when your saliva is made to be an ally. I want you to understand what I'm telling you about the health in your mouth correlates across the board. You use your childlike mind, your imagination, and you can see what I'm saying laid out in agendas all around you. It's about the mouth. Let me tell you a quote from a dentist. He said, if the eyes are the windows to the soul, then the mouth is the window to the rest of the body. Now, when I tell you that shit gave me chills, the average person is going to read that and say, oh, that's cool. Oh, yeah, that's a great. They're not going to get. And listen, the man is putting it in your face and letting you know, I'm about that life. I'm really about this. That's some straight up occult shit. This motherfucker said, if the eyes are the window to your soul, then the mouth, he made the correlation. He's letting you know. I'm not talking on just no mundane level. So, just something for you to chew on. The subtle things around us will give us the real essence of what we're looking for. So that means that I'm gonna wrap this up because I know my wife probably gonna call me in a minute. Final word is this. You've heard the master, Bobby Hemmett, say this, and I'm just gonna echo what the master has said. When it comes to your finances, your job, if you got a job or whatever, especially if you have a job, the thing is, if you don't show initiative to want to so-called grow on the job, you're seen as a problem. Okay? Understand that. But you got to stick to your guns. You got to be careful about aspiring, okay? And I want to say this because I know I looked at my demographics and I know some young people listen to my stuff. I don't want you to be misconstrued and say I'm telling you to be a loser. I'm not. Get your money. All right? But I want you to always drive with your headlights on. Don't you ever blindly get caught up into this thing of making it, and I'm rising up the corporate ladder. You got to always be the spook who sat by the door. You got to always maintain who you are, because the goal is to suck you in And then they try to tell you that they want you to have work-life balance. That's bullshit. The goal is to suck as much life out of you as possible so that the child can always be denied the nourishment that the child needs to grow. I'm telling you some real shit here now. The baby needs to be nourished. You have a little baby in you, and you got to feed the baby. What you think they talking about when they say don't feed the gremlins after 11 or midnight? That's the magical child. Don't feed it. Because if it grows, it gets out of control, and we can't control it. So all these different little things, distractions, this and that, and this person beefing with that. I honestly think sometimes these people are getting paid just to do this stuff. I want you to really stay focused on your business. All right, baby. And that is to give birth to the magical child. Do not abort your baby. Feed it, care for it, nurture it, love on it, encourage it, raise it up 360 degrees, level and plumb. All right, it's gonna wrap it up. Fourth Industrial Revolution, conspiracy against childhood. Appreciate y'all tuning in. It's Brother Jamal, mastersofthecosmos.com. April is the month. It's going down in April. So stay down till you get up. And as always, when you get up, stay down. Peace.